So, first of all, Jamie, just want to recap on what we tried to do last night on Instagram and say thanks very much for joining us on this. The purpose of this interview, I suppose, this chat between the two of us, is to maybe bring some confidence to some SME businesses that are struggling in the current environment with COVID-19. We're going to do this every week, guys, at around 8 o'clock on a Thursday evening, usually. And the whole idea, as I said, is to try and bring some kind of solidarity to this current environment that SMEs find yourself in. I think most people know I have a couple of businesses, and everyone knows that Jamie is involved in a number of different businesses as a shareholder, and also in fairness to Jamie, which he only reminded me last week, and he was involved in a couple of the bars, but you forget that the bars are shut down as well. Like, we're still working away in Paxton and Ask Paul and Clear Choice, but obviously bars are closed and staff are laid off. So Jamie, you might just kick this off and give us a kind of run through what the last couple of weeks has been like for you from a small business, because obviously, as well as all that, being the brand manager for Flender, you're obviously seeing an awful lot of people coming in looking for money, looking for lending, and then people that are still trying to invest at a good time as well. But before we get into the Flender and the lending, what's the crack with the business and how are you hoping, and what are you doing?
Well, so I'm seeing it, like you said, Paul, from the last couple of weeks has been a roller coaster from numerous different angles. Like, you touched on the pubs. Like, on a Sunday morning, we had to let go of 70 people across 2 pubs, and that's that's just not a nice conversation, especially when you build it over, we're going 6 years, so you go from building 1 pub to 2 pubs and 70 people across those 2 pubs, and what that means to them. Some of them are, it's pays for the mortgage, pays for the rent, pays whatever. And so it's tough, and you have to wear that hat for a little while, and how you plan that and how you work your way through it, and position yourself to be able to ride these waves out, hoping and not like I'm the eternal optimist. I mean, I said it to you. I'm a realist in my planning. I'm an optimist in my thinking. So I'm optimist that there will be a finish line. We will be back open at some stage. You got to plan for that, ride the wave and plan for that. So you're seeing that as a very much an SME owner. Then as an investor, separate to what I do with Flender and that, I've invested in 7 different companies across 7 different industries, and it's quite interesting seeing, from an investor point of view, how you have to look at your burn rate in terms of what you got in the bank account, how long can you last, are VCs investing money, are they not, are they shy, what's the market like for your product, whatever different vertical you're in, are we in a sales mode right now, or actually are we flipped that on its head, are we in a protective mode where we're working with our current clients and not worrying about growing the business, more like pruning and really like building those like those relationships, really getting them really, really, really strong. And then with the Flender thing, you're right in the middle of it. So you're seeing both. You're seeing businesses coming to you, really good businesses coming to you, looking for financing for a multitude of different reasons, not just the bad reasons that people, come straight to mind. And then on the lending side, you're seeing, we deal with on 2 sides. We deal with the institutional lenders, which is like dealing with private equity and VC firms, and then also seeing like our retail activity has never been bigger. Like, we had our biggest month ever in March of retail lending. So for me, what that is mad. So what that means is that 2 things. One, the one I think is really good is that people are looking to lend on our platform and help Irish SMEs. But at the same time, they still want to be kind of prudent with how they do it, go through the checks. That we do. And then also the flip on that is they get a return on their money. So they're kind of seeing it at both fronts, going, I can do good and get a nice kick from it. But it's really, really interesting to see this multitude of different things that businesses are going through. And then talking to you, obviously, like what are we both learning here? How can we try and help SMEs through this? Because for a lot of SMEs, it's a scary time. Uncertainty breeds a bit of fear in people, obviously, as well. There's no business for a lot of them, and people are pivoting and all sorts of different things. So obviously that's what we said. You and I were like, right, let's try and get some advice out there, get overseen out there.
Yeah, let's try and help people. And I suppose from an SME point of view, it's sometimes a lonely world for people. Like, you might have some people watching this, and there might be a one-man show or two or three, and they mightn't have that network. I'm lucky enough, we've got nearly 28 staff in total. You mentioned over 70 just in the pubs or everything else. So we've got a big kind of supporter, a big family, and my business Pax, it is like a big family in fairness. So I think it must be hard if you're a smaller business and you're trying to see what's going on or talk to as well. So I think what we do over the next couple of weeks, I mentioned this already before we went live on this, is that we're going to take questions between now and next Thursday. Next Thursday we're trying to get into the questions. But for the time being, we have a couple of questions in, Jamie. I think me and you discussed this already. So number one, in my opinion, I think you might agree with me on this. If you're an SME business, the first thing you have to do is probably just take stock of what you have, where you currently are at the moment, and start cutting the costs. You mentioned yesterday we're talking about the Sky Sports and the pubs, cutting that bill at maybe $2,500. Someone came into me last night and was saying to me, I cut my Sky Sports on for 30 quid, and then Jamie's paying $2,500 for the pubs. But I thought it was a good one. But yeah, you have to literally just look at what you have at the moment. And what kind of stock you have, or what kind of sales you have. You mentioned this, Jamie, already. Looking at your existing clients even might be just a time to wrap your arms around them, make sure they're still there when this all COVID-19 thing is over. But I do think cut your costs as much as possible, and just get into survivor mode, and don't wait for next week or the following week, and maybe start communicating with landlords, banks. Don't wait for them to come to you, because they won't. You have to take the bull by the horns. You mentioned this yesterday as well, briefly, Jamie, as well, didn't you, in relation to the freehold and the mortgages and the leases?
I think you've got to look out, like you just touched on there. Take stock. Firstly, who are your stakeholders in the business? And I don't mean who's invested in the business. I mean, what's your biggest cost here? Is it your mortgage? Is it your rent? Is it your rates? Is it different subscriptions you have? Is it wages? Okay, and assess all of them. Okay, what can you do in your mortgage? Go to your bank, see if you can get the 3-month moratorium, right? Your landlord, what can you do? Can you get a 3-month moratorium on it? Your finance provider, whoever that is, are they flexible with you? Okay, that's grand. What about your rates? What are they doing in rates? Are people pushing out rates? Aren't they? Subscriptions. We talked about Sky Sports. I even did it personally. I rang up Sky and I was like, "There's no live sports, lads. I'm not paying for this." Right? Yeah. And in fairness, they're like, they put their hands up and they're like, "Yeah." You know what I mean? So they're not paying until it's back. There's live events again. What else can you look at? You can look at your wages. Like right now, okay, so for some businesses, okay, there's nothing coming in, so they've literally just pared back to the bare bones. You know what I mean? But maybe some businesses are operating. Okay, what's essential to your business? Who are the essential people? Can people multitask as such? And can people wear a couple of different hats?
Yeah.
What's like example? What I'm trying to do. Small thing I'm trying to do is 2-3 times a week order from the local restaurants or cafe, whatever's kind of ordering food or delivering food around the place. That's a good one. And I went locally to the chop house, and he says he has 3 people in there. He comes in at 7 a.m, does a lot of prep. Another kid comes in at lunchtime, helps him out kind of with finishing. And then a girl comes in at 5 o'clock to basically put the bags out the front for people to collect. And he goes, that's it. And he actually says it's been so successful, he's going to continue it whenever it comes back to normal.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I do think that people are going to change how they work. Like I'm working from the house here. I've been running around like a headless chicken for the last kind of 18 years of my career, rushing from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting. This week I did 35 meetings through Zoom with clients, new clients, existing clients, etc. And I'm like, I'm never getting into that Jeep ever again. I'm not getting out. I'm not doing that traffic thing anymore. So I do think you're going to see people working differently on the back of this. But although it's a really tough time for people, I do think that hopefully you can try and take some lessons out of this. Sometimes businesses, when they go through this, they could be the making of it. Maybe you were spending too much money, maybe you weren't planning enough, and maybe COVID-19 has just put you in a kind of corner where you've had to really think and get that entrepreneurial spirit out and find out where you're going to find it.
I always think as well, Paul, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm like, if you have that kind of fixed mindset in terms of this is what we do, this is how I operate, I think you can potentially get yourself into a lot of trouble there. You need to be flexible, right? Yeah. You need to have a growth mindset here. You need to say, okay, right, this is the landscape. I'm adapting. What does adapting look like? Does it mean I have to cull the herd a little bit and prune things to keep the core of the business alive? and keep that flame burning and then pour petrol on it when we come out the other side?
Yeah.
You know, is it, or, you know, do you have the runway for that? Or if you don't have the runway, why didn't you have the runway for that? Is it,
Good point.
we talked about that, you know what I mean? And I know you have your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I do. I think what people have to realize, if you're an SME business, or you're one-man show in particular, and you haven't got money in the bank, or you haven't kind of prepared for something maybe going wrong. Okay, no one knew it was going to be COVID-19, but you always need to have something in the back of the bank there to make sure you can survive a downturn in business or something going wrong. Look, this is definitely massive. But if COVID-19 is going to wipe you out, I hope I'm not being too patronising the people here, but maybe the particular business you're in and what you built, maybe you have to take a step back and say, right, this maybe wasn't for me. I've learned from it, shut down the doors, and then maybe go again when all's over. And what I mean by that is that not being foolish, not borrowing money off maybe parents or family if you can't get out of the bank, and trying to keep something alive that just probably won't survive. And that's hard with your business, because most people think you'd agree with me, when you have a business like a baby, it's like one of your kids. And I think that's going to be hard for people to make that call. But if you can take a step back and really think about this, if you need to pump in really big money over the next few months, and you're not going to make it back probably by year end, you probably have to make a tough call. And that is hard for people. But I think that is
we see that with Flender. So we see people coming to, one of the things they're coming to us is for working capital. And we look at the funds, and that's something we have to address. It's like, okay, you know, where is this going to be in 9 months, 12 months down the line? You know, it's something we have to factor in. And I think it's something people got to really ask themselves. Or can they pivot? You know, can they pivot into, like, we're seeing a lot of people come to us in terms of they're realizing, like you are, the beauty of working from home, okay? Because we all have to work from home. But then how do you enable that to operate and work as best it can? How do you enable your employees to operate as best they can working from home, you know, through different ITs, laptops, earphones, standing desks, whatever it is at home? Can you pivot your business to be able to deliver? You need to deliver.
Just say a couple of my staff are listening in. Don't be mentioning standing desk right now. I'll have a big bill next week.
It's an interesting one, you know, because I look, yes, there's no point hiding it. This is going to be tough for a lot of businesses, and a lot of businesses are going to go to the wall. Our employment rate is, I think it's the highest it's ever been. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's 17%.
400,000 people. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's so high, right? Out of that, yes, there'll be a lot of innovation, and there will be some really cool businesses that come out of this. But people have to really ask themselves, you know, the industries they were in and they were let go in, is that what they want to be in going forward? You know, and I think that's, you know, take a bit of stock, take a bit of time to think about that. And if you are lucky enough to have your business still operating, how are you adapting to this current scenario now? And what are you learning now that will help you in the future? Because anyone you read and talk to about, you know, this pandemics and this sort of thing, they're kind of like, well, you know, this could be the new where it happens every so often.
Yeah, it could be actually. That's a brilliant point. I never even thought of that, because if you have to adapt to this one and this happens again in 2 years, you know, you might have to keep adapting every couple of years or something like this keeps happening. I think that when it comes to, you know, from a small business point of view, I've been talking to a lot of people about their personal finances through Ask Paul, obviously. We said we do 20, 30 kind of full financial reviews with people on a weekly basis, and it's great. But I always say to people, this is the perfect time to do that money diet. You know, you kind of spend too much money and you know you have to kind of watch your money, but you never actually get there. But now you're in lockdown, you can't really spend anything other than your food shopping. Okay, maybe you can go on buying online and buy stuff, which you probably shouldn't be. I think it's the exact same for small businesses. I think this is now the time to really cut your costs down and examine where were you a bit loose with your money, where were you making the wrong decisions, where were you just overpaying for stuff that you probably didn't need. Did you have that extra staff person? Did you have that extra, I don't know what the cost was, did you have that extra bill coming in that you didn't really need because it made life easier for you as the owner, maybe not to put an extra hour in? And if you can reverse that and put that extra hour in, then you know, maybe that might save you money in your business over the long term. So I do think that's a massive possibility for people, like, you know.
And also understanding what you can avail of right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, so there's a lot of the government are doing like things that we never thought they would do or never knew they were capable of doing, right? In terms of enabling SMEs, because they understand that I think they're taking the viewpoint that there is an end in sight. We don't know when, but there will be another side to this, right?
It will come,
but in order for us to come out the other side, we need the economy operating. We need businesses kind of positioned. So what you're saying is perfectly right. It's like, okay, let's look at, what were we kind of wasteful on? Okay. But also, what can we avail of to keep the business ticking over? Is the wage subsidiary scheme, what is your local EI branch doing? You know what I mean? Your enterprise Ireland, what schemes can you avail of here? Because look, we're all going to have to take a hit in some shape or fashion here. And if we can keep the doors open, fantastic. But then prune that business, take that time that you now have to, okay, what's important, what's not? What am I really good at that I'm not getting to spend most of my time on, and why? How do I enable myself to spend more time on that? In terms of what, that Pareto rule, what 20% of my time is giving 80% of my revenue, or even what's generating 80% of my revenue in general in the business. These sort of things are pretty important. Like, if you're not good at it, how can you outsource it? Is that a contract? Is that an employee? Or is it just wasteful, like you touched on? And I think an SME is not a whole lot different to running a household in terms of looking at your finances in that regard.
It's not. And you mentioned a couple of things there, Jamie, I think that are really cool. The likes of the EIs, the Enterprise Ireland. I know I've been getting emails off Rob Cullen down in the Dublin Chamber.
And they're great. They're sending so much through, like.
They are brilliant. The Rob's really good. So we're getting a lot of emails out. We're asking for surveys. So if you're somebody that's down to, like, I'd be so busy all year round, but I always find it hard to get to these events. But now everyone's doing webinars. It's a great time to maybe upskill in areas that you hadn't got in your business, whether it's that social media course, or whether it's reaching out to like Dublin Chamber or the DLR, or whether it's the EI, and find out what grants are there. One thing I think a lot of business people don't do, and I'm kind of a bit guilty of this as well over the years. I'm lucky we've got an executive team in place now, but business plan. So you do a business plan at the very beginning, maybe when you're setting up your business, you never get a chance to actually go back and do the business plan again. Just put it on the long finger. So now might be the time, if you haven't done that in a couple of years, get down and get an hour or two, or say, right, what's the next phase of my business? This is a big blip. This is time to regenerate ourselves and get going. I think
it could be, Paul, it could be that idea that you have that, like, I never had time to think about that idea or innovate, or,
Yeah, actually, that's true. Maybe you're an employee watching this, not my employees, but if you're an employee and you feel like you want to do something, maybe now's the time. It can be weird. Like, it'd be a great time for you to think about those things.
Yeah, it's look, I mean, you there's some very, like, for some people, yes, they have to, they're kind of they have to think real short term. They're being laid off. They have to kind of figure their way through this. Okay. And you're hoping that the different schemes in place will allow them get through this. Okay. And we'll come out strong. But like the SMEs that are working now, I mean, you've got to pivot. You got to figure that out. You've got to avail of the schemes that are there. And take the time as well now, if you have the time, because some other businesses, some businesses are flat out, you know what I mean? They are, and fair play, you know what I mean? Fair play. And they're adapting and they're going with it. But if you have the time, I would think, step back, like you said, do a bit of research on that idea that you had, or do that online course on something that you had an interest in or wanted to know a bit more about, particularly if you're, running a business or a management level and you have that space now. I think you got to take the opportunity when it lies in front of you, and not kind of linger. Because I think if you linger, that's where you might get yourself in trouble. I think you've got to set short, medium, and long-term goals. Don't be fixed to them, because obviously the landscape can change, but have some sort of direction and start heading in a direction.
Yeah, a direction is important. The other thing you mentioned there, and I must say, I wouldn't be one for the politics, or talk about politics in these situations. I must say I'm really impressed with how quick the government have moved for SMEs and moved to back employees and to help SMEs try and keep their staff on the payroll. And I think Pastor Donahue said something about keeping your employees close and making sure they're still on payroll and still ticking over. So when you come out the other side, it's not a scramble for trying to get businesses back up and running. So I know I've probably given them a fair shot of a pop over the last number of years, Fianna Fáil, but I do think I'm very impressed with Fianna Fáil and what I'm seeing over the last number of weeks and months for small businesses. So hopefully that continue. The one thing I'm a bit disappointed, you kind of alluded to this when we were chatting the other day, Jamie, is the insurance industry. So yeah, I think there needs to be a bit of
where do I start, Paul? Where do I start? Well, look, I mean, it's like when we were talking. So if I put my SME hat back on, right?
Yeah.
And we looked at the range of things. We were like, okay, bang, mortgages, lease, bang, rates, wages, right? We have to do all these different things. And then the next thing on our list was insurance. And, we look at our cover, we had, contact with our insurers on it. And, everything was positive. And then things went quiet, right? And then you're like, and then we are not, like, you're not covered here, basically, is what they said. And I think you've read across the coverage in the media has been in both the pub and restaurant world on this front has been, there's been a lot of coverage around it. And Pascal, the Minister of Finance, had to pull them in and give me a chat to. And it'd be very interesting to see how it pans out, because there's a bit of it's like a moral thing here. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is really, the pub world alone, pubs directly employ 50,000 people in Ireland. And God only knows the knock-on effect of suppliers and all sorts of things with that. But those insurers, they've been saying, oh, we're getting a bad rap these last few years with premiums going up and their profits going up. And everyone be kind of going, what's going on? And then they turn around, they don't pay out.
Jamie, let's be honest here. They're completely taking the piss. It's like they are. There's no. I tried to sugarcoat the language was, but they really are taking the piss.
It's difficult. It's difficult to work with them on this. And I think, we'll see what happens after this chat that they've been the direction that they've been given from both the central bank and the Minister of Finance in terms of how they're going to behave. But the realist in me thinks that this won't be solved quickly, and it'll be like typical insurance. They will drag it on, and it'll be 2 or 3 years before we get any sort of answer. And that's a shame. 2 or 3 years for a business is detrimental. It's almost like, and we touched on this, the SME financing through the pillar banks. And the pillar banks, ISME put a study out there. It was the Q4 of 2019 study. It was taken on average 6 weeks for a bank to say yes or no on an SME loan, and then taking another 2 weeks for them on average to draw down. Okay, that's 8 weeks. 8 weeks right now for them to get money with SME, even with this the CBI or the SCBI involved, is too long.
Yeah, no, it's madness. Not in the current environment, it's madness. And in fairness, I must say, I did say this already when I was promoting what we were kind of doing the Thursday evenings. I did say that I used Flender before for one of the businesses, and it was brilliant. I'm not just saying this because you're on and we're talking about with Flender, but that whole thing of having a quick turnaround of the decisions, not even the process of getting the money. It's somebody saying, yeah, within 24 hours, getting the paperwork, getting going. And then we went back to Flender with another kind of idea business-wise, and we're growing again. And that was organised top up and money in the bank. It was in 3 days. It was a ridiculous service. But, and that's what I'm saying, from an SME business point of view, if you've never gone, and again, this is not, we haven't honestly rehearsed, it's not a pitch for Flender here, it all sounds like one. But if you are thinking about stuff that you maybe felt like you missed and you didn't spend time investigating, whether it was peer-to-peer lending or whether it was a grant from the Dunleary Rat Down Leo that I use for one of my businesses as well, apparently were brilliant, the local enterprise office for a starting clear choice for us. Or whether it is going down the Rob down in the Dunleary Chamber or the Dublin Chamber and having a chat about what support you can get for your business. Take this time to reach out to these people now, so you know when you come out the other side what's involved. Even if it is going to Flender or anybody and trying to find out what's the crack of getting a loan, lads, and you need X amount of accounts, just take the next 3 or 4 weeks to get those accounts together. Because generally I find when I went to Flender, it was more I delayed at trying to get the paperwork together for Flender than Flender did put it through the process. So
well, look, I mean, we've partnered with people like yourself or Big Red Cloud because they're an online software company, so their accounts are always up to date, and what we're trying to do here is, look, I don't want to sell the product, right? This is not a time for selling,
No, it's not. We're not doing that either. We're saying how
No.
easy it is though for businesses, which is a great pitch.
Yeah, and what I want SMEs to know is that there's options. That's all.
Yeah.
There's options.
Yeah.
And what anyone ever wants is options. They don't want just one avenue that you can go down. And right now is the time more than ever where you need an array of options to assess and see, okay, which one is fitting with what I need right now. You know what I mean? And I think that's the most important thing that we need to kind of get out to the market. You know, if that's true, and like for example, for you, you can give independent advice on the whole plethora of options that are available to you personally and as an SME. You know what I mean? And I think that's the most important thing that we need to get across to people.
Yeah, no, it is. Like I said, I think when people go, look, I think when I was going through the business over the last number of years, sometimes when you're, I suppose, that entrepreneurial thing, when you're trying to grow business, you can sometimes just become a little bit stuck in the mud where you have a concept, you have an idea, and you can't find your way through it because it's all just so cloud. There's a million things going through your brain, whether success or failure, staff, family, yada, yada, yada. But sometimes you just need a break. And I think this, I know it's been unfortunate what's happened with COVID-19 for businesses, but maybe this is the break you need to step back, evaluate, and then reach out to people, try and find out how you grow your business, how you and even I know a lot of entrepreneurs, Jamie, that don't have, like, I didn't go to business college, didn't do it, went through the insurance industry, did all my exams at even time, and came out the other side the way we have. So I know loads of people that could do it, maybe doing an online business course or just educating themselves a bit more in business skills to help their business. So it's not even about the lending part of it. But look, not trying to put too much of a positive spin on disaster for people here. Let's not take it away from the awful situations awful people find themselves in. But let's try and get the positivity going on it and try and use the time to upscale, invest in your business.
Like I said, I think be real with your thinking and your planning, but then be the optimist in where it might go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look, it's going to be tough, and that's why you need an array of options, because you're going to have different problems and you'll need different solutions.
Yeah.
And like, it's always good to go to someone independent, separated from them all, for a bit of guidance on it. And we work with loads of third-party brokers in that regard. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I think for an SME now, like we said, if you're like, what's the here and the now? Look at the short term. Survive. And then try and kind of almost sustain yourself through it. So survive first, sustain yourself through it. And then if you get time, start planning to set yourself up for success when you come out the other side.
Yeah, no, I do. I think that's vital. And look, Jamie, I think that's a great note to probably finish up. We're trying to keep these a half an hour so people's attention span and kids throwing stuff at their heads and the time won't get.
I'm surprised neither one of our kids kind of lingered in the background.
My young lad Luca is 3 and just walked into the office and took a can of 7-Up off my table as I was talking. So yeah, I nearly had an interruption. But listen, it's been great, and we're going to do this every Thursday evening, probably on our Zoom. We'll try probably Instagram again next week. But we're going to do, if you're listening to this, or watching us, try and get questions into us. I think next week we might probably start off talking about finance and where you can go for finance and the options that are available, and try and bring in 1 or 2 business lessons on each half-an-hour session over the next 12 weeks. I think that will really give people benefit, that we're giving a little bit of knowledge over. So look, Jamie, thanks for joining me again. And actually, you're the host. Sorry, I should be thanking you.
No, look, I think, Paul, I mean, it's a pleasure from my point of view to be teamed up with you here. And I think hopefully we can, we're seeing it from a couple of different angles. Hopefully we can bring that together and just put it out there into the world in a positive way. And hopefully that helps a couple of people out.
Yeah, brilliant. Cheers, Jamie. Listen, have a lovely evening with the family. We'll talk to you soon, all right?
All right, well, take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.